guys, quick disclaimer, I've been thinking about this for a while, and I've decided that I'm gonna aim for one video a month from now on. I don't know if this is gonna be a permanent change or not, but for now, I just get caught up in so many other aspects of my life that I barely get motivation to make videos. I highly recommend you guys follow me on Twitter if you can. That's where I'm most active on social media. But with all that said, let's just get back to the video. So, I've done a series of Powerpuff Girls episodes list over the course of this channel, and I just completed a list of the worst Powerpuff Girls episodes overall, and the worst episodes of seasons 1 to 4. And I'm doing something similar with the best episodes. I recently put out a list of what I consider the top 10 best Powerpuff Girls episodes overall, and now I'm going to complete the list series with this video. This is the top 10 best Powerpuff Girls episodes of seasons 5 to 6. Live and Let Dynamo. This episode is about the Dynamo making a return, but it's been stolen. So the girls have to figure out who's controlling the robot and stop it from destroying the city at the same time. I know this episode gets a lot of flack for the ending, which, spoiler alert, it was the mayor controlling the Dynamo the whole time. Honestly, I do kinda agree with people when it comes to the ending. It did feel kinda like a letdown. If I were to rewrite this ending, I think Princess would be the perfect fit for the one controlling the Dynamo. She's been shown to have a lot of experience when it comes to gadgets and other machinery, and it would make sense for her to try and use something that belongs to the Powerpuff Girls to look cool, since she desperately wants to be a Powerpuff Girl. That's her whole shtick of the series, basically, and none of the girls ever mention Princess in this episode, so it would fit perfectly. But as the episode is, I still thoroughly enjoy it. This episode has some of the most intense action in the entire series, and especially in this era, that does make up for it. I definitely think the best experience with this episode is a first-time viewing experience without knowing the ending prior to watching. But even going back to this episode afterwards, I still say it's an enjoyable watch besides the dud ending. Crazy MixUp Puffs. This episode is about Mojo Jojo turning the girls into conjoined triplets, I think. And the girls have to find a way to stop Mojo in their current state and put aside their differences. I really like how this episode acknowledges each of the girls' points of view when dealing with crime fighting, and how they can clash with one another. Blossom wants to take a more methodical approach, but she doesn't always listen to what the other two think, or take their ideas in consideration, because it's all about her, apparently. Buttercup tries to get things done fast, and is actually pretty good at putting up physical fights, but she could also be rather impulsive, which could hinder her in fighting. As for Bubbles, she just wants to be recognized, and feels like her sisters are more large and in charge, while she's just made to follow whatever they come up with, and just wants to help out in whatever way she can, which is understandable. However, she doesn't always come up with the best ideas, although she has the potential to. Although, this acknowledgement is also kind of a flaw. These differences are acknowledged, but not entirely solved. I would have loved to see the girls come up with a compromise at the end of the episode. Blossom can take her sister's ideas into consideration, Buttercup could learn to think ahead, and Bubbles could come up with her own style of fighting strategies. This was a bit of a missed opportunity here, but what we did get was still pretty good. At the end of the day, it's not about your strategies being the most important. It's about working with the team as one. That's a great thing to take away from this episode. See Me, Feel Me, Know Me. Ah yes, the infamous musical episode that was originally banned in the US, but it's not entirely banned here, thanks Hulu. Anyway, this episode is about the girls being fed up of having to fight bad guys, and then this gnome comes and makes a deal with them that he would make all the villains in Townsville disappear in exchange for the girls' powers. I know this is a pretty controversial episode of the Powerpuff Girls, if not the most controversial episode. You got the infamous bans, which could either be from the communism aspects, or the strobe lights, or the Christian undertones. No one really knows why it was banned exactly, though people always seem to believe one of those options firmly. But this episode is also controversial in the sense that people either love it or hate it. As you can probably guess, I love this episode. I love the main conflict that the girls face in this episode, as I feel like it's a very important lesson for them to learn. The girls basically get exhausted of fighting villains after being defeated, and they wish that there was just total peace. Honestly, with all that's happening in the world right now, that's a hard thing not to wish for. Not to mention, the girls constantly have to deal with a lot of destruction and tragedy at such a young age. I don't blame them one bit for wanting a world with peace. But as the episode later shows, a utopia can sound like a dream come true in theory, but in practice it doesn't always work out the best. There wouldn't be any heroes without villains, so the girls take that lesson to heart, get their powers back, and restore Townsville. This is a great lesson for the girls to learn, and it's a lesson that's very true to the real world. Couple that with amazing visuals, decent but catchy songs, and some intense moments, and this all comes to an episode I feel deserves much better than it's gotten. The boys are back in town. This episode is about him deciding to bring the Rowdy Ruff boys back to life to defeat the Powerpuff Girls once and for all. I have yet to really talk about the Rowdy Ruff boys, and I do plan on talking about them a little more in the future, but for now, I just want to say it was hard to not put this episode in place of their debut episode back in my top 10 best list. But in the end, I decided to save my thoughts on this episode for this video. This episode has some of the best suspense in the entire show. The Rowdy Ruff boys are back, and I'm loving their new looks, and the girls' cootie kisses not only don't work on them anymore, but make them stronger. And yes, that does offer a lot of a good adult humor.
Whenever their masculinity is threatened, they shrink in size.
Hold up.
Although, if there's one thing that I don't like about the episode, it's Blossom giving up way too easily. She would rather run away from the Rowdy Ruff boys rather than make an attempt to put up a fight. And before anyone says she ran away to buy time to formulate a plan, she doesn't. Once they're hiding, Blossom just gives up and then lets the others get beaten up by the Rowdy Ruff boys until Buttercup finally has enough and then fights back. By the way, I love how Buttercup's breaking point was seeing Bubbles being humiliated. That just shows how much she loves her sisters. Mean to her sisters, my... Anyway, aside from that one problem I have, this episode has it all. Iconic moments, great action and suspense, despite a few gross out moments. This episode is truly a contender for one of the best episodes of the series. PPGs. Psych! Yeah, no, it's Aspirations. If you all watch my best episodes overall list, you probably saw this one coming. I just can't help it. I love this episode too much, okay? But anyways, this episode is about Sedusa and the Gangrene Gang teaming up, and the gang commit more high-skill level crimes, leaving the girls baffled. But it turns out Sedusa was just using them for her dirty work. I realized after making my previous list that some people might be uncomfortable with the way Sedusa takes advantage of the Gangrene Gang, which I'm honestly not that bothered by it. The whole point of Sedusa's character is that she's a hot lady who uses her looks or a more seductive attitude to get what she wants, and she's doing that here. She's a pretty threatening villain, and I love her manipulative tactics. Although sometimes I wonder what would happen if these seductive tactics didn't work on a guy or even made them uncomfortable. It's something to think about. Wow, I'm just realizing how much I've been talking about what might have been in this video. As for the Gangrene Gang, their potential also has the ability to pull off some pretty elaborate schemes. With the right motivation, that just further drives home the lesson the girls will learn in this episode. Never underestimate your opponents. One thing I've noticed only after making my previous Powerpuff Girls video is that the music that plays over the heist scenes is a remix of the Gangrene Gang's theme song. Couple that with the suspenseful atmosphere and fitting Egyptian-sounding instrumentals. I really didn't do this soundtrack justice the first time around, so major credit where it's overdue. I can't really find any other words to describe how much I love this episode, so I'm just gonna leave it here. Might possibly expand on it in the future. And whether you hate this episode or not, I'm willing to respect any and all civil opinions, but I will always consider Aspirations my number one best Powerpuff Girls episodes. Not just of seasons 5 and 6, but of the entire series. Well, I've completed my worst list and my best lists of the Powerpuff Girls. Don't worry guys, this won't be my last Powerpuff Girls review, although I don't plan on talking about Powerpuff Girls exclusively because I have a lot of other shows I love and want to talk about. I don't really have a schedule for what video I'm going to post. It mostly depends on what I'm watching a lot of at the moment. But rest assured, I do have future Powerpuff Girls videos in the works, like solo reviews and character analysis videos. This isn't exclusive to PPG, by the way. But who really knows what the future holds for this channel? Only time will tell. Either way, I look forward to what's ahead. That's all I wanted to say for now. See you, peeps!